For my presentation, I chose the intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic motivation theory. But first, we need to know what each one means. Intrinsic motivation is defined as the doing of an activity for its inherent satisfaction rather than for some separable consequence. So, in my own words, I would say that it means you do it for your own satisfaction, you want to do it, it's something that makes you feel better doing it. The classroom example I chose was a student completes all 12 multiplication tables because they find it exciting to learn the new information and challenging their knowledge. So, this student is doing the tables because they enjoy doing them. Goals. Goals come from within, and the outcomes satisfy your basic psychological needs for autonomy, competence, and relatedness. So this on the goals, it's the goals coming from within. It's you create your own goals because you enjoy them. You're making goals that you want to enjoy, not based on something on the outside. And on the other hand, we have extrinsic motivation, which is defined as motivation to participate in an activity based on meeting an external goal, garnering praise and approval, winning a competition, or receiving an award or payment. So, in my own words, it's you do something so you get rewarded. The classroom example I chose was a student completes all 12 multiplication tables as fast as they can so they can have their name at the top of the list of the fastest completion times. So instead of the student, like as my first intrinsic example, just doing it because they enjoy it, the student does it so that way they can be rewarded as having the name at the top of the list. That way everyone sees them at the top of the list. So that is why they're extrinsically motivated. They're motivated by an outside source. Goals are focused on an outcome and don't satisfy your basic psychological needs. Goals improve external gains such as money, fame, power, avoiding consequences. And that's what I just said for the classroom example. The student wants it for the power, the fame, and not to satisfy their psychological needs. The first research study I found was a study based on students, and it tested in depth. It studied medical students and which way they were motivated and how they would perform while they were in school. This was done by other students as an extracurricular research. The study showed that the medical students were extrinsically motivated, and it showed that without this extrinsic motivation, that less and less people would try to become medical students, because without the extrinsic motivation, they just do it for the fame and the power and the money, and that's one big reason that people get into the medical field is because of the money. And it found that if it was just intrinsic, the number of students would go way down because they wouldn't get the money, because not as many people are doing what they want to do because of the money is the job. The other research I found was for teachers and how they based their lessons based on intrinsic motivation or their extrinsic motivation. And pretty much the research showed that if the teacher was doing an intrinsically motivated lesson, students performed higher than they did if it was extrinsically motivated, which that makes sense because if it's intrinsically motivated, the teacher enjoys the lesson that they're teaching about. So instead of just trying to make it where all the students get good grades or something like that, like extrinsically motivated, if on the intrinsic side, if the teacher enjoys the lesson that they're teaching about and enjoys just teaching in general, instead of just doing it, showing up to their 8 to 3 o'clock job, the students are going to learn better because they'll be engaged because the teacher themselves will be engaged. If the teacher themselves is not engaged, then the students won't be engaged. And this just says how the research was done in 4 different ways and 4 different types of studies. This shows the motivations for each side. This left side is from the student study, and this is from the teacher study. From the student study, one of the quotes was in a survey of 515 UK medical students, 51% uncovered that their main motivation to undertake research was career progression. And their career progression was for 51%, that's pretty even. So that's pretty nice to see, because if it swayed one way too much, then that wouldn't be good for that field, because that would just show that people aren't in it because they enjoy doing it. They're just in it for the money. For the teacher side, it says this is how supporting what I said earlier. Whenever the teachers use intrinsically motivated, which they changed it to autonomy, supportive motivation, and then this is whenever they used extrinsic motivation, and they just changed it to controlling motivational style. And then these are my 2 citations.